Welcome back to another edition of the Founder Spotlight. Today I have the founder of Happi, Lisa Hurwitz. How are you doing today, Lisa?
Great, Lars. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you've led, marketing for a few different billion-dollar brands at Kimberly-Clark, overseeing Huggies, Kleenex, Kotex. You implemented several different global strategies, drove double-digit growth in markets like Australia and China. Spearheaded the first ever global brand identity guidelines for Kimberly-Clark. Manage a team of 75 plus marketers and designers, launched e-commerce and direct to consumer. So after all of that achievement and success at that level, what inspired you to leave corporate world and transition into the cannabis industry?
It's an awesome question. And I will start out by telling you that when I left Kimberly-Clark, they thought I was insane. So you go from, I originally had on my LinkedIn profile from toilet paper to rolling papers. And that's kind of what I did. I went from manufacturing toilet paper and Kleenex and all these brands that live on shelves in everyone's home to a federally illegal industry that 6 years later, by the way, is still federally illegal. I did it for two real reasons, Lars. One is purpose. I'm a very purpose-driven person, and while Kimberly-Clark and P&G before that and other companies I've worked for have incredibly purpose-driven brands, I feel like plant-based medicine and cannabis is absolutely not where it needs to be as an industry category in this country right now. And I felt sort of compelled personally after my own health journey in my late 30s, early 40s, where I couldn't sleep. As you mentioned, I was managing a global team. I was on the plane all the time. I once took 3 overnight flights in the same week. I mean, it was completely insane. And I turned to Ambien, and I would say now at this point, looking back, I was very addicted to Ambien. Even though they say sometimes it's non-habit forming or non-addictive, I think it can be for a lot of people. And the only thing that helped me was cannabis. And so in 2017, I realized that this Ambien piece was not a good long-term strategy for me. And I actually got a medical card in Illinois, went through the whole process and self-taught myself cannabis. I mean, I was, in my late 30s, I had 2 young kids and I was walking into dispensaries in Chicago, not knowing what to buy, not knowing what I was doing, but knowing that there was something out there with cannabis in it, whether it be a gummy or a tincture or something that could help me sleep without Ambien. And sure enough, within that year, I kind of figured it out. And it was at the same time that the rise of the MSOs and they're multi-state operators for your, audience that may not know that acronym. And it was kind of the boom in cannabis, particularly a lot of them were based in Chicago where I was living at the time. And I joined one of them. I saw the opportunity and the promise, but I also had this personal sense of if I can wean myself off Ambien and teach myself cannabis, women like me have a lot of opportunity to use cannabis, to leverage it for many different needs. And that was sort of like the basis. And I actually ended up going into the cannabis industry within a year after that in 2018.
So what was your go-to consumption method? Was it gummies? Was it flower? Something else?
It was gummies and then a little bit of vapes. I am a sleep person, so anything that's sort of relaxing or indica driven typically is what I would go for. But I was terrified walking into these dispensaries. I mean, at the time, bulletproof glass, doorman, it was far sketchier than it is today. And that just gave me a lot of drive to try to change the industry and make it more friendly for people like me.
I haven't been to Chicago in a few years now, but I know that when my sister was living there, I believe in 2019, 2020 timeframe, and I would go to the dispensaries, it was definitely a very jarring experience in terms of the other legal states I've been in. So I've been to Colorado, California, Michigan, or medical down here in Florida, and the experience is nothing like Chicago. It was like they check your ID like 6 times. There's armed guards everywhere. So yes, it was not an overly pleasant experience. I'm not sure if that's changed or not.
It's real. I was actually just in Chicago a couple weeks ago, and I'm in New York now, and it's relaxed a little. And definitely the dispensary experiences have gotten much better. They used to be, even in California, like in 2017 and some of the early days, they when they first become recreational, they often feel a little head shoppy. I think it's improved quite a bit. But what really sort of gave me the passion to start Happi is what I don't think has evolved is the consumption method. So to answer your question, I wasn't a huge pot smoker growing up. So I was never someone who was like, I am true to flower. I became fascinated with alternative consumption methods. So we produced, when I was at Grassroots in Chicago, we produced Wana's gummies for Grassroots. Is still in place for Curaleaf now. And I became fascinated with gummies and edibles and tinctures and more ingestible ways versus smokable ways to kind of enjoy cannabis. And then it was just at the very beginning of the rise of Beverage when I left Curaleaf, actually. And it's been amazing to see the transformation in the past few years. It's just been awesome.
Yeah. So you mentioned Grassroots there and Curaleaf. So you helped build Grassroots Cannabis and facilitated the acquisition by Curaleaf. So what were the biggest lessons you took away from that experience?
Yeah. So just again, for those of your viewers or audience that doesn't know Grassroots, it was a multi-state operator. We had operations, cultivation in 5 states, based in Illinois, based in Chicago, cultivation in 5 states, and dispensaries, over 70 dispensaries across 12 states. So it's completely vertically integrated. Curaleaf purchased Grassroots in July of 2020 for over $800 million. One of the biggest exits, I think, still to this day in cannabis. It was a fascinating experience. It was a high growth, high stress environment. I will say that I was very proud of a lot of the things that we did there. I think we built some great brands. I think we made some really quality products, but it was a tricky culture in many ways. And what I took away from it is, if you really want to build a brand in this category, you need to decide, are you going to drive for like long-term goals, long-term success? How long do you want to run the business? Or is your goal really to sort of sell the business within a certain number of years? So as an entrepreneur, I had always worked in huge companies. Kimberly-Clark is not, they're public. They're not selling the company, and they may sell off a brand here or there, but that's few and far between. At Grassroots, what I learned was they really built that company to be sold and sold quickly versus building a brand or a company for the long term. And that was just an interesting dichotomy. And I'm neither right or wrong when you choose, but as an entrepreneur, I think, there's a very different mindset that you take on if you're going to run a business long term than if you think you're going to sell the business in the near future. It just changes a lot of the decisions you made. And I think that mindset and how that drove the culture and decision making, I think was one of my bigger takeaways after leaving.
Yeah, so let's kind of shift gears over to Happi now. And you launched Happi. When did you launch Happi?
We launched Happi in 2021. So we first launched, I'll give you kind of a little bit of the backstory. I obviously had several years of regulated market experience. I connected with a business partner who had the similar vision for Happi that I did. He had started working on formulation and brand and a few other things. He came out of live entertainment and had sold his company in 2019. So we connected in late 2020, launched Happi in 21. Both of us were living in Michigan at the time. So I'd moved from Chicago to Michigan during COVID and was up in that area. And Happi was born in the dispensary channel. It was impossible to sell low-dose drinks in the Michigan market in the dispensary channel. It just... And now looking back on it, I of course you can armchair quarterback your, anything in the past, right? But I should have known because vault space is tight, low dose. Michigan is a very high dose market. It may be the highest dose market in the country, right? People really want weed in the state of Michigan. And a 5 milligram, and at the time we had 2 5s and a 2.5. Just, we couldn't move product. And while people love the novelty of a beverage, the repeat and velocity wasn't there. It was sort of the wrong product market fit for the dispensary channel. Minnesota was a huge gift in 2022. I think you probably hear that from a lot of the founders that you talk to. And we were able to shift gears after about a year or so in the Michigan dispensary market into hemp-derived. And that's really what's driven a lot of our success at Happi so far.
And so as you're building Happi, let's start with the mission and values. What are the mission and values for Happi?
Yeah, so Happi, we've always been kind of focused on a more female demographic, only because we feel that they're underserved in both the beverage market and the cannabis industry, and they're also the least likely to smoke and vape, et cetera. And so as a result, we've always been kind of focused on that consumer, but we really think about our business as inspiring occasions of happiness. And that is our vision. So whether that occasion is me sitting in front of Netflix on the couch in my pajamas and just drinking a Happi and feeling really happy, really good, or whether that's celebrating a milestone or a special occasion or just a fun night out or a date night. Inspiring those occasions of happiness is our vision, and our mission is really to build the world's most innovative and trusted THC beverage. And those are words we've thought a lot about. So innovative, and I want to talk about a new product that's just come out, and also our portfolio, because I think we're one of the only companies that's really looking at effect and playing with different minor cannabinoids in terms of how do you give consumers a different effect, and really leaning into sort of the functional beverage space. And that really is that piece around innovation. And then trusted is the other piece. So we came out of the regulated market. We do things right at Happi, and we always have. We've always tested our products. We're incredibly transparent with our results. We have QR codes on our cans and our cartons, and this allows us to track and trace where our ingredients, where our cannabis is coming from, how it's testing, to make consumers feel safe. Because I think one of the challenges is this market's totally unregulated. The adult use market is not, and there are regulations in place in the adult use market that can be adopted for hemp-derived beverages to keep consumers safe, and Happi has had those implemented the entire time we've been in existence. So trusted and innovative are really important to our mission.
And so, you kind of talked about new flavors and innovation and being trusted. So those are obviously really good and strong principles that probably drive and influence everything that happens inside the business. So from product development to consumer experience, that's amazing. How would you describe Happi's brand positioning within the overall cannabis beverage space?
Yeah, so I'm a marketer by background. It's funny, that's usually one of the first things I say when I talk about my story, but I think it's funny that it's come a couple, probably 15 minutes into our chat, Lars. So I'm a marketer, and I can't unsee the world without a marketing lens on it. And so I think Happi has been a marketing and product-led company, and I think Joe, my partner, would say the same. We take quality and brand decisions incredibly seriously. We put really first. So it's not how much THC can we jam into a product for what price. It's not how quickly can we make something to get it onto shelves or to get it to distributors. It's really with our end consumer in mind. So our brand is very much about these moments of happiness, these occasions of happiness. And what we try to do with our products is look at all the different beverage occasions and where Happi could come in. So there's daytime, right? Not everybody. A lot of people start their day, I do, with coffee, right? Mm-hmm. That's a more caffeine upper daytime occasion. There's that sort of glass of wine to take the edge off at the end of the day. There's hydration throughout the day. So beverage is an awesome category. It's actually one I didn't work in before in consumer packaged goods. I was mostly beauty or laundry or paper or other things, but beverage is really cool because there's so many consumption occasions. And so as we think about our product development, we think about how our consumer is going to, drink Happi and how they're going to feel. And so number one SKU is called Glow. It is THC, CBG, CBN, CBD, and a little lion's mane. And it's really about that goal. We designed it for that transition between the end of your workday, which is coming up soon for both you and I, hopefully, and our evening routine. And it's that sort of golden hour drink is what we call it. And it gives you sort of that nice buzz that's really relaxing. It's Glow. Then we have Nightcap, which is designed to be that last drink before bed. So if you go to a bar, people drink an espresso martini, terrible for your sleep. It's got sugar, it's got caffeine, and that's really how I got into cannabis. So I'm very passionate about the effect piece of it, which is how to help people sleep, how to help people take the edge off. And I think these drinks that are really designed, they're low calorie, low sugar, vegan, all natural ingredients. We don't use cane sugar. It's all agave syrup. They're designed for a more health and wellness minded consumer who wants to have better habits, who wants to forego alcohol and pharmaceuticals. I think there's a lot of other beverages in the category, most which are higher in sugar, higher in calories, and they're just, it's great. They're more sodas. They're more designed for a different consumer. But our consumer, we have a clear sense of who she or he, but more often she is. Our repeat purchase rate is really high. People love the product.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you guys launched in the dispensary channel in Michigan, and then you shifted over to the hemp-derived market. And you guys did a fundraise round on WeFunder. Was that during that transition from the regulated market to hemp, or was that for a different new product formulation or something like that?
Yeah, that was during that transition. As you probably know, capital was incredibly hard to come by. It still is. It's a little bit better for hemp beverage companies because there's such a growth trajectory now that more Anheuser-Busch distributors are getting in and others. But yeah, for a while, and I would say even in the regulated market now, it's just a very capital constrained environment. And beverage is a capital intensive business. You need raw materials, you need packaging, you need manufacturing. It's heavy to ship. I mean, there's a lot of logistics and cost involved in manufacturing beverages. So it was a raise to help us transition between the regulated market and the hemp-derived market.
And so I'm not sure, we didn't talk about this offline, but the number one product I used to buy whenever I would go to a legal market was Wana gummies. And I love their branding. I love everything that Nancy and now Joe do over there at Wana. I wish they had a more extensive line in their medical lineup here in Florida. But I mentioned that because Happi is now part of the Wanderous marketplace alongside some other well-known cannabis brands. So how has that partnership helped expand Happi's reach, and how do you ultimately see Wanderous influencing the consumer awareness and education?
Great question. So we actually have a really deep partnership with Wana. Nancy and I go back, almost 6 years to my early days at Grassroots. Grassroots in Illinois was one of the first co-packers Nancy worked with, so kind of making Wana's gummies for the Illinois market. So we've wanted to do work together for a very long time, and we actually launched Wana's hemp-derived gummies on Happi's site, so happyhourdrink.com, Happy's with an I, for this all at the end with your audience, but we launched 3 flavors of their hemp-derived gummies back in June. So that had been planned for a long time. They were excited to get into the hemp-derived market. I think Wana makes a great product. We share a lot of the same values. So you asked me about values earlier. Innovation, Wana is incredibly innovative. They are very effect focused, and they are quality focused, and they do things the right way. And I think those values align really well with Happi. So we've wanted a deep partnership. And when Wanderous launched, I think it's just been another example of the two brands working really well together. And, I think it's been an interesting learning curve because Wana has such a dominant position in the regulated market. Hemp-derived is a whole different beast. I mean, I think you and I know that. So Wanderous just launched, 6-8 weeks ago. I think it's to be determined. It's still too early, but I think collectively we're finding our sea legs around this new audience and this new universe of people who are interested in low-dose hemp-derived gummies and beverages. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting. You guys said that you guys share a lot of the same values, because one of the reasons why I always loved Wana and why I always sought them out specifically was because I tried a bunch of different gummies, and a lot of them were really tasty and did certain things, but what stood out about Wana was every single time I took every single gummy in the package, it was the exact same result. So that was what stood out to me, because sometimes I would take a gummy and wouldn't feel anything from other brands, and then I take one, it hit really hard, and other times it hit exactly as I expected it to. But Wana was very consistent. I think Happi delivers on that consistency as well, which again stands out when you do things the right way. So it makes sense to me as someone in the space that you guys partnered together.
Well, and then the other thing I didn't say, but this is probably my favorite topic, or one of them, is women need to support other women founders. There aren't enough of us in cannabis. There aren't enough of us in hemp. And I can't say enough amazing things about Nancy Whiteman and what she's done for women in cannabis. She and I, with 3 other women, founded a group called Wink when I left Curaleaf in 2020, just to support senior women in the cannabis industry, and amazing people like Wendy Berger, who was on the board of GTI, and I could go on and on and on. And the level of support and mentorship I've found in this industry with other women has been incredible. I wish there were more of us to continue to sort of lift each other up. So I am super proud of the partnership with Wana, because I'm super proud of what Nancy's built, and I know she would feel the same. And yeah, makes me a little emotional.
I have not had the pleasure of meeting Nancy myself, so maybe someday I'll get that opportunity.
Tomorrow, so I'll ask her for you. There you go.
But she has a series that I don't know if she would call it a series, but she has a series on LinkedIn where she posts about different cold outreach that she gets from sales reps.
Circling the Drain is one of my favorites.
Yes, it's one of the funniest series that I see on LinkedIn. So you can tell her that I love that, and to please keep it up.
I will totally tell her that.
Awesome. And so I like to end all these conversations with the same question. So besides Happi, what other cannabis beverages are currently in your fridge and are you drinking?
So that's a tricky question for me. And then I do want to spend 2 minutes just sharing, because I have a new favorite, Happi, and it just launched. Actually, we're taping this before launch, but it just launched. So I am going to share that because, and I'm not just saying this because I helped develop it and create it, but it really is amazing. And I'm going to send it to you, Lars, and then you can give me feedback on it. But besides that, I love, listen, I think Cycling Frog's doing a good job in terms of, what they've created. I still like Wonder in the regulated market. They came out of the regulated market, and I know Alexi and those guys well. It's hard for me to separate the people from the beverage because there's so many strong founders in this category that I really respect and admire. I think what Trail Magic has done in Minnesota is really impressive. But there's just so many. I just spoke to Adam Terry at Cantrip before. If I wanted an orange soda that tastes like Fanta, I would go with Cantrips. So it sort of depends on like what I'm in the mood for. But I know the stories and I know the people behind the brands. And for me, it's hard to divorce those two. So I tend to buy from a lot of the companies that I know are doing it really well, doing it right, and that I respect. So if that helps. But here's the big reveal. So we came out with a seltzer called Happy Dance. It's a mango sweet basil, and it has THCV. And so I think most of your group, it's got these cute little headphones on it. You can buy it on our site, and all that information I'll share with you. But it has 5 milligrams of THC, 5 milligrams of THCV, and this was really cool to develop. And the effect is unlike any of the other cannabis beverages I've tried. It really does give you sort of this head clarity. I had heard a lot about THCV before I tried it. I knew it was really hard to develop with it. Vertosa's our emulsion partner. They've been amazing. And it's just a really cool effect. It does kind of make you want to dance. I have now tried it, I don't know, a dozen times since we produced it. And I think most of our team at Happi, it has shot up to their #1 flavor or #2 behind Glow. So I'm really excited to hear what your audience thinks of it. It's an awesome product.
That's awesome. I'm a sucker for anything with, herbs and just floral products in them. So the sweet basil is awesome. It's also funny that you developed a THCV product because the only other THCV product I think I've had ever was Wana's one that they had. I think it had 1 milligram of THC and then I think 10 to 15 milligrams of THCV. And that was actually the first product I ever used to work out. I took it before I worked out and it was phenomenal. So I'm excited to try it.
It's awesome. And that just goes back to what we were talking about before about alignment of innovation, about like that was unplanned, but that's because Wana values that and so does Happi. I think Nancy and I think a lot alike. So that's awesome. Ours is a little bit different and it's a little higher in THC, but it's delicious. And it's got a little bit of a kick of ginseng in it too. So I think you're going to like it. It's awesome. And I'm a sucker for branding and a marketer, as we talked about. So I've had a product in mind called Happy Dance for like 2 years. So I'm really excited because I'm throwing some serious parties over the holidays to give this one a whirl. It'll be fun.
I'm excited to try it. And I will collect all your links and everything like that. And I'll make sure to include those in the article as well. So all my readers can check it out.
Well, thank you, Lars. I really appreciated the time. And you and I have been circling this industry together for a while now, so it's just really fun to get to sit down with you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. And until next time, guys.